this provides a really good time to talk hockey, something that we don't always talk enough about, I think. It's kind of I don't want to say a niche sport. It is a major sport. It's very popular, but very much so regionally, right? We've got some strong hockey ties here in the Pacific Northwest. Tri-City Americans in town, of course, the Seattle Kraken in their inaugural season. Very strong in the Midwest, East Coast, and then you kind of get into the South, and there are some teams, some programs, but it's not as big of a deal. Here, though, I do want to talk about the Seattle Kraken. They may not be anything to write home about record-wise in their first season thus far. Dave Hackstall and company well below 500. But for what it's worth, they do put on a show. I'm talking in-game, but also beforehand. Taking a page out of the Las Vegas Knights book of flair, I think Seattle's gotten really good at creating an exciting atmosphere inside Climate Pledge Arena. And yes, we can laugh about Climate Pledge Arena. At the end of the day, I don't think, sidebar here, that's any worse than, Crypto.com Arena down elsewhere. If you're upset with that, I mean, Amazon, I think, is the company that bought the right naming rights to it. So if you're upset about them deciding to call it Climate Pledge instead of Amazon.com Arena, that's fine. Be an informed consumer and don't support them. I'll check on that because I'm pretty sure it's Amazon that owns the naming rights. That could have changed. Regardless, I digress. Back to the point at hand. The team released a video of one of their pregame entrances earlier this week. And obviously you can't see it all at home, but I want to play some of it so you can hear a little bit, and maybe I'll describe some of these visuals, and we can use our imagination, just because it was a really awesome thing. You talk about what creates an atmosphere, especially when a team isn't winning, right? You still have to make it fun. You have to make it exciting. And so there's this intro video that was shared on the Seattle Kraken Facebook page. It was their pregame show and announcement, and it starts with this real dramatic graphics display on the ice and on the graphics on the big TVs that they've got above the rink. So they've got like this sonar bleeping right now with the alarm sounds, right? It's off for the Kraken, and it goes silent. Really loud. I'm assuming that's what a Kraken sounds like, or what they believe a Kraken sounds like, right? And so then the lights go dark. And they've got more sirens. And now on the Videotrons, they've got like a giant ship. There's a guy running through it. It's really cool. And they have lights that reflect the display
the strong winds or angry seas
off the ice.
Nor the stormy skies you see above. Fear the creature that dwells in the deep. The ice-shackled Kraken.
And so now it just goes into the video screens, have one display on them. The ice, though, it's really sweet the way they shine the lights, and they've got the city off on the coast. Lights go dark again, and we'll skip forward ahead just because the rest of this is really long, but it's water on the ice, it's in the ocean, and it's really cool. I don't quite exactly know how they do this. I've never seen it to this extent before, but you'd skip ahead a little, and we get to the end where now they actually get to the entrance of the teams. And there's a giant Kraken eye on the Jumbotrons, the two of them that they've got up top. And it opens up. They've got like a tentacle on the ice. It's just really, really unique.
Lord of the fans, a legend awakens. It's time to release the Kraken.
Welcome to the deep, your Seattle Kraken!
And then they get into those starting lineup introductions. I mean, just really high production value. And again, you can watch that whole thing on the Seattle Kraken Facebook page. It was posted earlier this week, so like 4 or 5 days ago. Just scroll through, and you can check it out. And that's something, there's something to be said for entertainment value. Not that teams hadn't had fun little introduction stuff before, but the Las Vegas Knights really brought that to the forefront when they were like, hey, we're in Vegas, we're in our inaugural season. And what they did was impressive because they were surprisingly good straight from the get-go. Not all expansion franchises are going to be like that. And Seattle, one of those cases where they're going to struggle through it here for the first season, maybe even the first couple. But I do think that it's a program that will, a franchise that will get itself situated. And they're starting off on the right foot. One, in creating that atmosphere. I can only imagine being there when the lights go out, having all the different light, the show, the flair. That's what makes it fun. People come to sports events to be entertained. And another thing that the franchise is doing really well, I think part of the three-pronged approach, right? You got to win, you got to have the atmosphere, and then that third component, in my opinion here, is you have to have community engagement. And this is something that the franchise has done very well also. Even before they played their first game, the Kraken helped bail out the Alaska Anchorage Division I hockey program. Hockey, huge in Alaska, of course, but University of Alaska actually has separate teams for its Anchorage and Fairbanks campuses. The Fairbanks one was the one that they intended on keeping, the Nanooks, and the Anchorage team are the Seawolves. University was going to cut them. This went back to, 2019? They were even considering on the chopping block. Then the pandemic hit, and they were like, well, now we don't even know about having teams fly in and out all the time. It's a lot. We've got both campuses, both teams. Maybe we'll just combine them into one. We're going to scrap the Seawolves. And they needed $3 million to keep it. That was what the team had come out and said. Guys, we're already starting to transfer. They were clearing house. They're like, this ship is sinking. Ultimately, though, through various boosters, community donors, and the Seattle Kraken among them, they were able to raise that $3 million. And the Kraken, credit where they were due, before they even hit their own ice, supporting the sport of hockey and helping to provide opportunities for student athletes even before they hit the ice themselves. That's pretty cool. They also have some real cool stuff for their Hockey for Everyone nights. I had watched them play Pittsburgh. It was on TV a little earlier this season. They had a game against the Penguins, and they were doing an Indigenous Peoples Night. And they had these awesome jerseys that were designed by a guy who's a member of a tribe somewhere along the West Coast. I couldn't tell you which one. I forget. They had Native American performances at intermission. Super cool, and definitely a more immersive way of honoring that Native American heritage and culture than maybe just having the mascot. The jerseys were really cool. I was like, man, I wish these were their jerseys all the time. They just look so unique and different. And they've got a Women of Hockey night. Honestly, having played a little bit of hockey back in the day, high school, college age, I will say some of the best hockey players I've come across have been women. And I mean, obviously, when you get to the highest level, right, the professional level, and the men are just athletic anomalies, of course, you've got some discrepancies in the physicality of the game and all that. But at a pure skill level, there are some really, really talented female athletes who play hockey. So the Kraken are really, in through these Hockey for Everyone nights, getting out there, trying to draw as many different people toward the franchise as they can, and I think that's a good foundation. That's 2 out of those 3 prongs: the atmosphere, the community engagement and support. But, as we all know, Seattle likes winners. Ultimately, if you don't start winning and you don't keep winning, you might be in trouble as the franchise. Case in point, Seattle Supersonics. I think that provides a nice little bridge into basketball. So we'll talk a little bit of basketball coming up. The Trailblazers starting to look a little more respectable. We'll go over that. Some Pac-12 action going up as Washington State will not be playing. Their game for this afternoon was postponed due to COVID. We'll go over what is going on in the Pac-12, a little bit of NBA talk, and more coming up after this. You're listening to The Locker Room on News Radio 610 KONA.